even if we felt that really believing the fiction was advantageous to people, depending on which fiction you're talking about, there's too much evidence against it. You can't decide to believe something for which you have no evidence simply because of the good effects, the good experience it will give you, or you imagine it will give you. I mean, that's why Pascal's wager never made any sense. I mean, you can't say, the only way you can believe something to be true, really true, not just metaphorically true, is to believe that if it weren't true, you wouldn't believe it. That you stand in some relationship to its truth such that that is the reason why you believe it. Now, you can't be telling yourself, I have no evidence for this thing, but I know life would be better if I believed it to be true, and so therefore I really believe it's true.
You don't think people do that all the time?
I don't think they do. I think they do things much more like we're talking, the metaphorical truth we're talking about. We act as if things are true without forming any strong propositional claim, and that's fine. That's fine. That has its own utility. I mean,
you don't think this is basically, we all suspend disbelief when we go and watch a movie, and we sort of entitle the movie maker to set the ground rules of the space, and if it's Harry Potter, then there are magical things that can happen, and if it's some other story, maybe there aren't. So we all have a mechanism whereby we know we can suspend disbelief, and it's interesting to me that you seem not to imagine that people are doing that with respect to metaphysical beliefs that have implications for what the right actions that they should take are. Why wouldn't it be the case that same sort of mechanism would apply?
Well, it does apply, but there are people who are clearly doing much more than that. So I'm not, if that's all people were doing under the aegis of religion, I wouldn't spend much time worrying about religion. To some degree, that's what people do, as you say, going into caring about things that at bottom we really shouldn't care about. So the World Cup is on right now, and we literally billions of people care down to their toes what happens to this little ball as it traverses a lawn, right? And if it goes into the net, it really matters. And if it fails to, it really matters. And
it always matters if we hit the target, Sam.
But this is something we have manufactured to care about, right?
It's something that speaks to us unbelievably.
It's quite literally a game. This is a game that people are playing, but some people take it taking it further than seems truly rational is part of the fun. But the people who can't turn that off.
It's a metaphor. Soccer's a metaphor.
Yeah, but there are people who the fullback who kicks an own goal and then goes back to his South American village and gets murdered, right? He's surrounded by people who are taking the game too seriously.
Yeah, right? Okay, I agree.
Yeah, and so my problem with religion is that so much of the time we're meeting those people, and we're not criticizing those people. We have no place to stand to criticize those people because we're so attached to the game.
Fair enough. Look, why don't we do this? Why don't we each take 3 minutes to sum up?
So I think, we are there. We are at the end of time. So why don't you each take 3 minutes, sum up, and then we'll call it good.
Yep.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Sam went last. Do you want to go first here?
Okay. So there's lots of things about which Sam and I agree, but the devil's in the details, of course. I'm very sympathetic to his claim that we need to ground our ethical systems in something solid and demonstrable. My problem is I'm not sure how to do that. I don't believe that you can derive a value structure from your experience of the observable facts. There's too many facts. You need a structure to interpret them, and there isn't very much of you. And so part of the way that that's addressed neurologically is that you have an inbuilt structure. It's deep, it's partly biological, it's partly an emergent consequence of your socialization. And you view the world of facts through that structure, and it's a structure of value. Now that structure of value may be derived from the world of facts over the evolutionary time frame, but it's not derived from the world of facts over the time frame that you inhabit, and it can't be. So the problem I have with our discussion so far isn't really any of Sam's fundamental ethical claims, because I do believe there's a distinction between the hellish life and the heavenly life, say, the life that everyone would agree was absolutely not worth living, and the life we could imagine as good. And I do believe that we should be moving from one to the other. The question is exactly how is it that we make the decisions that will guide us along that way? And I don't believe we can make them without that a priori structure. In fact, I think the evidence is absolutely overwhelming that we can't, and I mean also the scientific evidence. And I would like to go further into the devil that's in those details. And so that's my situation at the moment.
Well, part of these conversations, and now you and I have had, I think, we've done 2 podcasts, and this is our second live event. And thank you for doing this, by the way. It's
my pleasure, man.
It's an honor to do this. It's an honor to do this, and it comes with risks for both of us to do this. I mean, as I think you can sense, we don't have precisely the same audiences. All of you are sort of rooting for one or the other of us to some degree.
For the spirit of truth.
And yes. But clearly the conversation is the point, right? This is not, though this conversation had the character at many moments of a debate, I don't think either of us view it as a debate in the trivial sense. It's not about point scoring. It's about making sense in a way that's consequential, because we're talking about issues of great consequence. And you obviously care about these things, and it matters whether we converge on the most important questions in human life. And as you know, I'm worried that religion doesn't give us the tools we need to converge. What does give us the tools is a truly open-ended conversation, and then you simply have to look honestly at the obstacles toward any conversation being open-ended. And religion presents those first and most readily. It is the idea that certain things have been decided for all time, and there's no future evidence or argument that is admissible on those points. Now, that is clearly bad everywhere in science. It's bad everywhere in how we renegotiate our proximity to one another in society. New laws and new ideas are born all the time about how to structure institutions and social relationships, because new things happen. I mean, we didn't have an internet, and then we did. So our old laws and our old expectations of human communication simply don't work in the presence of this new thing, right? So we have to figure out, again, it's a navigation problem. And what I'm perpetually in contest with, even in conversations like this, is the sense that the rules need to change just a little bit for this class of books. I mean, literally, this side of the bookstore, right? There's like any other part of the bookstore, well then there's no barrier to honest conversation. But you move over here, you got this shelf of books, there you have to hold your tongue, right? There we can't pick and choose. We can't say that, while we can say that Shakespeare wrote some fantastic plays, the best plays ever written, and some are actually not that good, right? We can't say that about God, right? We have to find some tortured way to make the most of his diabolical utterances, right? That's the thing we have to outgrow. And so what I'm continually in tension with you is the degree to which your style of talking about religion and the power of narrative and the meaning derived from it elides that point and seems to let people off the hook on that very point. And that's where we need to hold the line, in my view. We need to sure. That it has to be clear to us at this moment in history that no one has the right to their religious sectarianism, really. I mean, up to the point, clearly, that there's a World Cup version of it that is benign. But once it gets taken past that point, we have to figure out how to pull the brakes, and that becomes a real problem if you are going to dignify the foundational claims of these faiths, claims like revelation and paradise and blasphemy and apostasy. I mean, these are the things that you come up against, and I think conversations like this are incredibly important because we need to convince the better part of humanity that it's possible to live the best life possible without recourse to divisive nonsense. And where we draw the line between divisive nonsense and reasoned and necessary discourse is what we're dickering over, and I think it's important that we continue.